You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Here's your host with today's guest.
Welcome to another edition of Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Narcan, please get it. It's at the pharmacies. Most of the time it's for free. You can get it at URI. Keep it on you. Keep it in your car. It saves lives, ladies and gentlemen. It saves lives. My guest today is Patrick Lacey from Thrive, and Patrick is working on the Veterans Services, and he's the coordinator. So welcome, Patrick, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, Patrick, I have a soft spot in my heart for veterans. My dad was a veteran. I do a lot with the veterans. How long have you been in the service?
Almost 19 years.
19 years. Okay. Tell my viewers, 19 years, what did you do?
So I started in 2003. I joined the Marine Corps in 2003. I lost quite a bit of weight to join. I used to be 315 pounds.
Oh, my God.
I lost about 130 pounds to join. When I graduated boot camp at Marine Corps, I was 170.
Wow.
I did that till 2007. I did get a recall letter in 2008. I was in school, which was great. After I finished school, I started working around, and then around 2010, when we hit that weird recession, everybody was waiting in line for gas.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe the grass wasn't so much greener on the other side. So I tried to go back in, and they only really had truck driver available. And I was like, not my thing. I have a lot of respect for Motor T. Yeah. So I looked into the Army. Army only also had Motor T. And I was like, I'm not liking that trend. So then I stumbled upon a Coast Guard recruiter. And he was like, you will really enjoy the Coast Guard. So when I did it, we did that from 2011 till about 2023. So I left active duty 2 years ago to take this position. I'm in the reserves now, and I'm coming up on my 3-year mark for the reserves.
So there's really not many people that do what you did by switching agencies.
It's a little unorthodox,
Yeah.
but surprisingly, it was funny because when I joined the Coast Guard, they told me that the Coast Guard was the Marine Corps' retirement home. Then I met quite a few prior service Marine Corps in the Coast Guard, and it was awesome.
Wow. And you were just telling me a little while ago you jumped out of planes.
I did. We would get the Kiwi Express, they used to call it. If you didn't go on your own, you're going with the Kiwi Express, right. AKA the boot. But it was fun. Yeah. It was. It's an unusual thrill. A lot of people see it, and you usually only see it on TV. They're like, oh, I'd never do that. Well, I was voluntold to do it, and it was actually kind of fun.
Wow, well, good for you. And now you're working for Thrive Behavioral Health.
Yes, that's correct.
With the veterans, and I applaud you for that, and I applaud you for your service, and thank you for your service. Tell me what you do with the veterans within Thrive.
So I was hired on 2 years ago as the Veteran Services Coordinator. So as the Veteran Services Coordinator with Thrive, I act as a case manager for all veteran clients.
Okay.
I'm like a liaison. If they need interagency or additional agencies or help somewhere else, I essentially stay very networked, and I can make phone calls and I help get them in the right direction. Have knowledge with veteran services as with the VA, points of contact, stuff like that. I also set up different events inside of Thrive and inside the community. So we do a veteran peer-to-peer group. We usually operate out of the different libraries because there's a stigma with a lot of veterans when they want help, but they don't want to walk through a clinic door. Right. So really, a lot of times they just want to talk to somebody. Right. So we do it at a library. You come and go, no appointment necessary. It's no cost. There's other veterans there, and everybody we just jam for about an hour and some change. Mm-hmm. I got the idea when I started working with Newport Mental Health. They actually ran the initial pilot program with a peer-to-peer group, and I took that program and I brought it back to Thrive, and then we just expanded. Yeah. We also do a veteran coffee social. That started at the Warwick Library. It started in October 2023. It was more like a one-off, but it was huge, very successful. And then they were like, are we going to do this again? So then working with Katie Arnold, the librarian there who helped set it up, we organized another one in December. Again, very, very successful. And I was like, we should do this every month. Mm-hmm. And now with her help, diligence, and the other community partners that come to the event, it is now a standing event at the Warwick Library once a month. We actually have one coming up in November, November 12th. There's always coffee, light refreshments, and then a new guest speaker. We've had Frank Terranova. We've had musicians come in. We actually have another musician coming in the November class. We've had service animals come in, which are very kid-friendly too. So it's not just for veterans.
Yeah.
Veterans and their families, they can come in. We've done bingo nights. It's just a lot of fun. So,
You know, there's so many things that the veterans are left behind. You know, you drive down the street, you see them out there with the signs, they need help. They're collecting money for housing or whatever they're collecting money for. The United States, they don't do a good job. We do a good job here in Rhode Island with the veterans. I mean, I've had a number of folks sitting in that seat that work with veterans, Director Jan and a bunch of other folks. What do you think the biggest issue for veterans that come home and move back home? Housing? Is it work? What is it?
So it's a couple things. Sometimes when a veteran comes back home and they've been gone for a while, home isn't the same as it was when they first left.
Right.
We all have an original memory. Like, I enlisted out of Georgia, but I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm an Army brat. My dad was in the Army. My grandfather was in the Navy. But I grew up in Wisconsin. When I went back to Wisconsin after I had gotten out for a while and I went to go visit, it was a lot different. It was so much more different than what it was before.
Yeah.
So you don't have that comfortable feeling, right? So there's that. Then everything's so expensive, right? When you leave that guaranteed income, well, not right now, but the guaranteed income,
Right.
you know, every 2 weeks, the 1st and the 15th, you know, you have your BAH if you're married, so your basic allowance for housing. That all goes away when you leave, right? So now you have the worry, oh, I got to find a job. And then you're like, well, I have to find a job that was making comparable to what I was making, and sometimes that's not always the case, right? So that adds additional stress.
Right.
If you get out and you have younger children, then you have childcare. Really, everything's just so much more expensive than it was. And to have back in the day stories now, when I went in 2003, it's a completely different world now, 20 years later.
Right. Now, when you leave service, they just say, thanks for your service and out the door? There's nothing, you know, there's no meeting with you and say, listen, how can we help you? Can we help you with a job? Can we help you with this? Can we help you with that? It's just, you're done.
Not necessarily. They're trying to do better. We did a 3-day class called TAPS, and it's a class that shows you how to write a resume. Sometimes they'll interview you so you can get in-person experience, see what it's like again. Proper dress, and then they give you a sheet of resources, different numbers and stuff that you can contact, and it really falls on the members' initiative whether they want to reach out. But really, other than that sheet and then that 3 days of class, that's really all you get, right? And then so you really fall back on your support system, and whoever that may be, whether it's your parents, grandparents, friends, family.
I want to talk more about this when we come back. We're going to go to break. Suppose you don't have a support system. What's next? We'll be right back. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, Kodak. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Patrick Lacey is in the house, and Patrick is the head of Veteran Services at Thrive. He's the coordinator and 19 years in the military, some in one part and some in another. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your service. I want to talk a little bit about when, like you, Coast Guard, you get off the ship. Your duty is done. You get off the ship. You say, okay, I'm going to go to Rhode Island. Is there a way that when you step off that ship or step off the property of the United States government, that you can sit down with somebody and say, what's my options in Rhode Island?
So normally when you depart service, right, there's a home of record that's usually on file, and most members will go back to their home of record. So like for me, when I joined the Marine Corps, my home of record was Wisconsin. And then when I came back in to the Coast Guard, my home of record was Georgia, because that's where I enlisted from, right? So that becomes your home of record. And
You've been all over the place.
Yeah, quite a bit actually, and a lot of the Caribbean as well. And then when you move, you have the opportunity to change your home of record, right? Sometimes people do it for tax purposes. Some people like to do it for, like, they know they're going to get out and stay in that localized area. So most of the time, you know where you're going to end up when you go back. Like, a lot of people have connections, and there is that there's those situations where that member doesn't have those. Normally, when you finish your TAPS class, your resource officer will give you a list of stuff that's local, and sometimes they'll give it to you based off of where your home of record was. Now, that usually falls on the responsibility of the member, right?
Correct.
So, like, he's like, well, I didn't want to go back to California, or I didn't want to go back to Texas. This is where I wanted to go. Well, that's on you
To tell them.
To tell them,
Right.
right? So, you're not going to carry somebody the whole way. Like, my mentality is, I will meet you halfway. I will meet you with the exact amount of energy you're going to put into it, right?
Right.
And that's just how, the military coming out of me. So, but then at the same time, you've got organizations like the Vet Center. There's a vet center in every state. Sometimes there's more than one. Rhode Island just has the one because we're smaller. Like Mass, I think, has 7. You can go into a vet center if you're home of record or any state, and you can talk to them. And then normally they can point you in the right direction. Some veterans will even go to their local VA. Right. And if they want to start the process, or at least use their hospital, there's resources there too, and quite a bit of resources there, right? Even if you're walking through the door, there's tons of pamphlets, right? So as long as you're going to take the initiative and pick up that pamphlet, you're going to have access to information at your fingertips. So it's not going to be handed to you. Sometimes it might be. If you are, I enlisted here, I'm going back to exactly where I listened to, I know exactly everything that's there, all right, you're probably going to be in good hands.
Right.
That's not always the case.
Right.
So then you really, once you have those resources that are federally, then it kind of falls on to, all right, what does the state have to offer? And if the state doesn't have anything, what does your city or your county have, right? So like at CCBHC, there's 6 in Rhode Island. So we operate all of Kent County. If somebody comes into my clinic and they're like, even though I'm not a clinician, they're looking for services, I'll point them in the right direction. I would like to get connected with the VA. All right, perfect. I know exactly how to do that. Let's start the process, right? I will point them in the right direction. And if I don't know the answer, I have a Rolodex full of contacts since I've been here, and I will point you in the right direction.
Right. But let me ask you this question. I mean, you as a service, 19 years in the service, what made you go to this direction to help other fellow service people?
So I have friends that I had when I was in the Marine Corps, and while I was in college, they had a rough go at it, right? And they started looking around for resources, and so I'd help them call around, and if you don't really know what you're looking for, it's really kind of hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
And then I come back in to the Coast Guard, and while I think that there's certain services, but then I realize that there's way more than I know that there are, right? Unless you specifically look it up online.
Right.
And so I made the decision because I wanted to be in this field, and I wanted to help other veterans because of my friends, and I've seen it happen, especially with my family as well. I want to make sure that I know where I can point somebody in the right direction.
Right.
I want to make sure that they're taken care of. Just like I know I want to be taken care of, and I know my friends and family are pretty well connected as well now too, that if I need something that I can't figure it out on my own, they can point me in the right direction. Think of it as like a one-stop shop, and I feel like all the Veteran Services Coordinators for all the CCBHCs should be that way.
But there's also a stress factor in that when you go to you and you say, Patrick, I need your help. I need a job. I need housing. I need this. I need that. The stress factor is on you because you want to make sure you give them the right information in order to be successful. So I sometimes scratch my head with some of the organizations that try to help the veterans, and they get caught in the spoke. They're spinning their wheels. You see some on 117 with a sign, I'm a veteran, need food, need housing. That shouldn't happen.
Right.
That should not happen. If you are in the military in today's society and you're protecting the country, the military needs to do a better job in helping Joe or Lucy, who just came out of the military, to get housing, to get a job, to make sure their medical is up to date and whatever else they need to move forward. Some may have family, some may not have family. Some may think Rhode Island's a great place to raise a family. They're coming out of the military, but they're alone. They're alone. I've met plenty of gentlemen and ladies in recovery houses because, as you indicated earlier, when you're in combat or if you are sent to a place where you have to pick up dead bodies, that wears on your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like police and fire. So how do we, I mean, I commend you for what you do, but I think the government needs to take a lesson from what you do. We need to do better. I don't need, or you don't need, to see somebody on 117 holding up a sign saying we'll work for food, need housing, when they're a veteran. That's hard for me to swallow. You know, and you know, obviously my dad was in the military a long time ago. He's deceased now, but I can remember him telling me when they came home from active duty, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have the services like we have now. They was just like, here you go, pal. Get off the bus. Here you go. Good luck to you.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's, I don't know. Am I missing something?
No. I know one of the big sales pitch for recruiters is like, learn a trade, right? And so if you become like an engineer or a mechanic, yeah, you're going to have a trade. Or if like a damage controlman, like
Right.
plumber, you're going to have some of those skills to fall back on. But, you know, kind of like some of the TV shows have depicted, like if you go infantry and you get out, all you've seen is war, and then you come back, you don't really have a whole lot of skill sets, right?
Right.
So you really need that support system.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about that in the last segment, the support system that we need for our veterans. You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, Kodak. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. Patrick Lachey. I got it right this time. Is my guest. He's from Thrive Behavioral Health, and he does the veteran services, and he's the coordinator. Patrick, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your service. I want to also ask you about access. You know, a lot of people, when they come home, they don't know about access. They don't know where to go. Want to expound on that, please?
Of course. Most veterans, when they get out, can go to their local vet center or their local VA. And like, we have an agreement with the vet center. We're very close proximity, which is a huge plus for Thrive. We're very close to the Providence VA,
right.
very close to the vet center. They get somebody, they're like, hey, I need help. Can you please point me in the right direction? And 9 times out of 10, given the proximity and we're in Kent County, they'll call me.
Right.
So that when they call me, we go through, if they want to come in. We can do same-day appointments at Thrive, which is a huge blessing now
Right.
that we're a CCBHC. And they come in, every veteran who comes through our doors will meet with me. And there's a rapport that I feel it's very much appreciated, that sometimes...
Oh, you've been there, you've done that.
Right. A veteran can get frustrated when somebody like messes up, well, I don't know what an E3 is, right? And then they can get frustrated because they have to explain it. I know the Air Force ranking is still a little confusing to me sometimes, but for the most part, I get it. So we go in, I just talk, and really, that's probably the biggest step.
Yeah.
Like I said before,
Confidence.
with the stigma too, like a lot of people don't really want to ask for help, but when they know that there's another veteran on the other side, it makes it a little easier.
Yeah, Pat, I gotta thank you so much for coming on today
you.
and giving the veterans who watch the show and family members some comfort in knowing where to go, where to turn. So I want to thank you for your years of service and thank you for coming on today. Folks, next week, Jamie Angel will be on, and Jamie is in recovery. Great young lady. It's going to be a great show. And then coming up after this is Kodak Live, a fully integrated approach to care. Have a great week. Thank you for watching.